Out of all of Queen Victoria's children, Princess Helena Augusta Victoria is usually the least remembered. An extremely private individual, most of what we know about Helena comes from her mother's diaries. She was Queen Victoria's forgotten daughter, yet their relationship was even more twisted than people realize. Princess Helena's life started off on the wrong foot. Born on May 25, 1846, she wasn't the healthiest of the royal babies. Her father, Prince Albert, described her as quite blue at birth. Although she eventually recovered under the care of the royal doctors, her arrival nearly brought one of the most powerful women in the world, her mother, Queen Victoria, to her knees. Giving birth to Helena was so difficult that even the formidable queen had to pause her royal duties to recover, something that rarely happened. Helena grew up among 8 royal siblings, and the rivalry between them was intense. Her brothers teased her relentlessly, but she was no shy wallflower. If they pushed her too far, she would punch them square on the nose. Her relationship with her sisters wasn't much easier. Like many royal children, Helena was multi-talented. She played the piano, had a gift for drawing, and enjoyed horseback riding. At her father's insistence, she also learned practical skills like cooking, cleaning, and farming. She was, in many respects, one of the most capable of Queen Victoria's children, until her younger sister Louise was born, that is. On December 14, 1861, Helena's world changed forever. Her beloved father, Prince Albert, died of typhoid fever. She later wrote to a friend, "I adored Papa. I loved him more than anything on earth. He was my help and my advisor. These hours were the happiest of my life, but now it is all over." Rather than drawing the family together, this tragedy only deepened the dysfunction. Queen Victoria, consumed by grief, ordered Helena and her sisters out of Windsor and into a period of mourning at Osborne House. Isolated from the public, Helena struggled with loneliness. Without her husband, the Queen relied heavily on her daughter Alice as her unofficial secretary. But Alice needed help, and Helena, next in line, seemed the obvious choice. However, Queen Victoria deemed her unsuitable, dismissing her as too emotional and prone to bursting into tears. Instead, she chose Helena's younger sister, Louise, further deepening the wounds of sibling rivalry. Left feeling overlooked, Helena soon got herself into trouble. In search of love and affection, she became involved with Karl Ruland, her father's former private secretary. Their romance was doomed. Ruland was significantly older and, most importantly, not a royal. When Queen Victoria found out, she flew into a rage, immediately dismissing Ruland and sending him back to Germany. Heartbroken, Helena was left with no choice but to obey her mother's will. Determined to keep Helena out of further scandal, the Queen decided to marry her off as soon as possible. But finding a match was difficult. Helena was considered chunky, dowdy, and double-chinned, hardly the fairy tale image of a princess. Moreover, Queen Victoria insisted that Helena's future husband must agree to live in England so that Helena could remain close to her. After much searching, the Queen settled on Prince Christian of Schleswig-Holstein, a much older, relatively poor German prince whose family lands were entangled in a bitter dispute between Denmark and Prussia. The match outraged Helena's sister-in-law, Alexandra of Denmark, who considered it a personal betrayal. The engagement became a full-blown political scandal, with some family members supporting the match and others openly opposing it. Despite the drama, Helena found Christian to be pleasing, gentlemanlike, quiet, and distinguished, and she and her mother agreed the match was suitable. Their wedding on July 5, 1866, was a disaster, however. Helena's eldest brother, the future Edward VII, nearly boycotted the event in protest. One guest suffered a sudden gout attack, and another remarked that Helena looked like she was marrying an aged uncle. Against all odds, Helena and Christian had a relatively happy marriage. She devoted herself to her husband and their children, But life was far from easy. Helena gave birth to 5 children in quick succession, which took a serious toll on her health. She suffered from chronic illness, including severe joint pain, congestion, and rheumatism. Her mother, unsympathetic, dismissed her ailments as hypochondria. Worse yet, Helena developed a dangerous addiction to opium and laudanum, both commonly prescribed at the time. Her addiction spiraled out of control, eventually prompting her husband to beg her doctor to intervene. When the doctor cut her off, Helena was furious, suffering extreme withdrawal symptoms, including temporary blindness. Eventually, with the support of her eldest sister, she overcame her addiction. Helena's personal tragedies didn't end with her health struggles. In 1876, she lost her infant son Harold, who died just 8 days after birth. A year later, she gave birth to a stillborn child. The back-to-back losses devastated her, leaving her depressed and irritable. In 1878, another tragedy struck. Her beloved sister Alice died of diphtheria. Despite their past disagreements, Alice had always supported Helena when it mattered most. Now, yet another person Helena depended on was gone. Although Helena lived much of her life in her mother's shadow, she eventually found purpose in championing causes she cared about. Unlike Queen Victoria, who opposed women's rights, Helena became an advocate for gender equality. She supported the nursing profession and helped establish the British Nurses Association in 1887, pushing for the recognition and registration of nurses. She ran the organisation with the same ruthless efficiency as her mother, famously stating, "It is my wish, that is sufficient." But just as Helena began to find her own voice, she was once again pushed aside. When Edward VII ascended the throne, his wife, Alexandra, harboured old grudges and moved to strip Helena of her presidency over the army nursing service. Though Helena protested, she ultimately had no choice but to step down. Helena endured more heartbreak as her family crumbled around her. Her son, Christian Victor, died of malaria while serving in South Africa. Soon after, Queen Victoria passed away, and her death marked the beginning of more family turmoil. Helena's relationship with Edward VII was strained, and Alexandra's lingering resentment ensured Helena remained on the sidelines of royal life. When World War I broke out, Helena suffered another blow. Her son, Albert, served in the Prussian army, fighting against the British forces. Despite her personal losses, Helena remained devoted to her charitable work and continued to support the monarchy. She outlived many of her siblings, quietly fading into history. Today, Helena is often overlooked, but her story is one of resilience, duty, and heartbreak. She was the forgotten daughter of Queen Victoria, a woman who spent her life fighting for recognition in a world that seemed determined to overlook her. Thank you for joining me on this historical journey. If you enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more captivating tales from history.